Ever felt like you had a bunch of tasks to do and you just wanted a simple way to tackle them all? Well, in Java, the for each loop offers just that kind of simplicity. It's clean and straightforward way to loop through every item in an array or collection without needing to mess around the index variables or complicated logic. Interviews love seeing developers who know how to write concise, readable code. So, mastering the for each loop isn't just helpful, it is very important. Now, before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to never miss any update.
What is for each loop in Java? So, the for each loop in Java is a simplified way to navigate through arrays or collections. Its primary purpose is to make it easier to work with every element in a group of data without having to manage the underlying mechanics of looping, like index positions or you can say boundaries. So, when you are dealing with an array or a collection like a list of numbers or objects, and you need to process or examine each item, the for each loop is your go to solution. It essentially says for each element in this group, perform an action. So, this eliminates the need to manually track how many items are there or where you are in the list. So, basically, the for each loop in Java is a special type of loop used to easily go through each element in the collection, like an array or a list, without needing to worry about how many elements are there or how to access each one individually. So there is no point of having an index over here. So now that we understand what a for each loop is, let's look at how it is written in Java. So basically, let's have a look at its syntax. So the syntax for each loop in Java is designed to simplify the process of iterating over the arrays or collection. So here we don't use I, that is the index. So its syntax is pretty simple, as you can see. For the keyword, after that there is type, then the variable name, and then the name of the array. All right. So as we can see, first I'll explain the type. So this type refers to the data type of the elements in the array or collection. For example, if you are working with an array of integers, the type would be int, that is integer. If it is an array of strings, the type would be string. All right. So this was about the data type basically. After that, there is where. Where is basically the variable that holds each element in the array or collection. As the loop iterates, it represents the current element the loop is working with at any given moment. For each cycle of the loop, where is assigned the next element in the array. So basically, where is the variable that is getting stored from this array elements. So one by one, each and every element of the array will be shifting to this where and it will get printed or whatsoever you want to do with that. All right. So this was about where, which is the variable. Now the third is array. So this is the array or collection you are iterating over. So it could be of any type of array like integer, string, or a collection like an array list or a hash set that we will be discussing in further tutorials. So basically the loop goes through each element in the array or the collection from first to the last. So one by one, each and every item of the array will be going to this var variable that will hold the element, and then we can perform the actions. So we don't really use index over here. So now that we have gone through the syntax, let's explore how it actually works in the practice. So how does it work? So the for each loop in Java works by automatically iterating over the elements of an array, or you can say the collections, simplifying the process of handling each element without needing to manually manage indexes or worry about the length of the array or collection. All right. So here's the example on the screen, as we can see. So int number. All right. So here it declares a variable named number of the type integer. So this variable will hold each element of the array numbers. The array name is numbers. So this number variable will hold each element of the array numbers during the loop's iteration. And we know numbers is the array. So numbers specified that the loop will iterate over each element in the array numbers. All right. So numbers is basically the name of the array. So now let's break down how it works through an example. So now let's do an example and understand it in a much better way. All right. All right. So we are on Eclipse. So here we'll do an example to understand this thing better. So it's working basically. Alright, so first of all, as we know, public static void main, string arguments. Alright, let's remove this. Now under the braces, what we're gonna do is, first of all, we will, initialize an array int type, and let's name it array itself. Let's name it numbers, let's say. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so we have declared an array. Now using for each loop, we will traverse through each and every array elements. Alright, so this is what we're gonna do. For loop we'll use. So this time we are not using for loop, but for each loop. As we already know the syntax, the data type, the variable that will hold each and every element of the array. So keep in mind, this is numbers. Numbers is the array and number is the variable that will hold each and every item or element. That is 1, 2, 3, one by one. So here is the syntax, and numbers, that is the name of the array. So one by one, each and every element of numbers array will be transferred to number, that is the variable, and we will print each and every element. So simply we'll print number. All right, I hope you guys understand this thing. For those who didn't understand, again we'll repeat it, so you don't need to worry about it. Let me just print first. All right, so now it will print all the numbers, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is the elements of the numbers array. Let's save it, and now let's try to run this. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it is displaying each and every element of the numbers array. Now for the people who didn't understand it, so basically first of all what we did is, an array called numbers is created by us, which have the elements, that is the integer elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, after that we have used a for each loop. So we wanted to display each and every element of the numbers array, so that is why we have used for each loop. This program can be done with the help of for loop also, but here we wanted to understand the working of for each loop, that is why we are doing it. Okay, so the for each loop starts with the keyword for, as we can see. Now the loop variable number is declared as an integer, as you can see, integer number. Now this means this matches the data type of the elements in the array numbers. As we know, the data type of the elements are integer only, so that is why we have used this. All right, now the loop will proceed to iterate over each element in the numbers array, starting from the first element. So during each iteration, the current element from the array is assigned to the variable number. So in the first iteration, number is assigned 1. In the second iteration, it's assigned the value 2, and so on until the loop has gone through all the elements. So inside the loop, as we can see, there is a print statement in which we are printing the number. So here this statement is executed printing the current value of the number. So this will continue until all the elements in the array have been processed, and the loop exits after printing all the numbers. All right. So this is a very simple and basic example for you guys to understand. I hope you guys understood it. Now that we have seen how the for each loop works, let's move on to when it's appropriate time to use it. All right. So now let's understand when to use Java for each loop. So when to use Java for each loop? So you should use the Java for each loop when you want to go through all the elements in a list or array without changing anything. Now it's perfect for situations where you just need to read or process the elements, like printing them or calculating them based on any factor. For example, if you want to print all the items in an array or sum up numbers, the for each loop makes this easy and much more clean. All right. However, if you need to modify the elements or change the structure of the collection, then a regular loop would be more appropriate. So these are the differences that when you have to use Java for each loop and the for loop. All right. So basically, these are some of the, although both the loops can be used, but there are some advantages of both of these loops. And now let's understand when not to use for each loop. So as we have understood just now, like these are the situations when you should avoid for loop. Now let's have a look at the situations where should we avoid for each loop. That is when not to use for each loop. So you shouldn't use the for each loop in Java when you need to filter elements or modify the collection, like removing or replacing items. So this is because the for each loop hides the iterator, which is what you will need to perform these actions. And without the direct access to the iterator, you cannot remove elements or alter the structure of the list while iterating. So for example, if you are trying to remove certain items from array list based on a condition, the for each loop won't work because you can't call remove. In these cases, using an iterator or regular loop is a better option. So this was about when not to use for each loop. Now let's do some more examples on for each loop so that you guys can also understand along with me. You can also do the practice along with me. You can just open the code editor in your system and start coding with me and do the programs. This way you will understand it better. All right. Now let's do another example. All right, so we are back on Eclipse. I hope you guys understood the previous example that we did. It is already on the screen. Now we'll do another example in which again we'll use for each loop to traverse through again array of integers. But this time let's do some other numbers. All right. So yeah, let's do it. All right, now let's this time again we'll create a numbers array itself. And but this time it will be a random number like 23, 56, 61, 47, 102, 79, 34. Let's add some more numbers. All right, so these are the elements of the array. The name of the array is numbers. All right, so yeah, so we have declared the array, and now again using for each loop we will traverse through the array. All right, so here we can see for. I hope you guys understood the syntax, the data type, the variable that will hold each and every element of the array, then the colon. After colon we'll have to use the array name, that is numbers. All right, now this is the syntax, and inside this we'll simply print. And because we want to print each and every element one by one, so number will be holding each and every element one by one, so we will print that itself. So again, for the guys who didn't understand this, let me first save it. So the line for int number colon numbers is basically saying for each item in the numbers list, call it number and do something with it. So the loop grabs the first number from the list, which is, as you can see, 23, then goes inside the curly braces to see what to do next. First, it picks up the number 23, then moves to the next one, that is the 56, and prints that and keeps going until it's done with the whole array, basically. So the loop continues until it has gone through every single element in the numbers array. So let's save this one and run this. I believe there is some error. Yeah, by mistake we have used the full stop instead of comma. So it has shown us compile time error. That is the syntax error. All right, now let's again save it and run it. So as you can see, all the numbers are getting printed. 23, 56, 61, 47, 102, 79, 34, 29, 63, 77. All right, so now we can also put a condition in between whatsoever you want to do. You can mess around this question in order to understand it better. All right. So this was the first example. Now let's do another example. So this time we'll do an example of array list. Just now we did an example of array. Now we want to do an example of array list. So the array list is a concept that we haven't understood yet, but let's do an example of this one because we don't need to understand array list for this particular example. The basic things I'll tell you, but in the further tutorials we will be covering array list, so you don't need to worry about that. So basically my point of doing the example with array list is because we also use it with array list, the for each loop. So that is why I want you guys to understand and do an example with it. All right, so first of all, you can just ignore what the syntax is all about because obviously we'll be covering it in the further tutorials. So first of all, we'll have to create an array list of integers. So let me just do that. array list, then integers. This is how we do it. Integers, then numbers, new, just copy paste it, new array list. All right, we have declared it. Now, in order to add numbers in this array list, we do it like this, numbers dot add and 4. Similarly, for each and every element that you want to add inside an array list is going to be like this only. So let's make it 3, let's make it 6, let's make it 31, 24. Alright, so these are the numbers or elements that we want to add in the list, that is the array list. So this is how we do it, numbers.add. That is the name of the array list and the add function. Alright, now after this, we will be using a for each loop to traverse through each and every element, basically. So the process is same itself. For loop, int, that is the data type, number, colon, numbers, and then inside this system.out.println, now here number. Let's save it and let's run it. I know there's some error with array list, the syntax of it. All right, what it is showing, yeah. So the error is we haven't imported the java.util.arraylist class or the package, so we want to do that. So import java.util.arraylist. I believe now it will understand it. All right, as you can see, it is getting printed 4, 3, 6, 41, 24, 44, 98, and 7. So this is how you can add numbers, and using for each number, for each loop, you can print it in both arrays and array list. So this is very basic examples. I just want you guys to try the different examples, because the basic is this only, the rest is upon you. So now I hope you have understood this example and the concept. Now I want you to try an example of for each loop. So the level of this example will be beginner only, as we did. So but you will be able to do it, and but if you are successful in doing the challenge, then you can write in the comments, and you can write done in the comments, or you can just give it a heads up. So I really want you guys to try this example, because that will train your muscle to do more programs like this. All right, so the challenge is you have to create an array of 5 names or strings, that is, and like Alice, Bob, Charlie, David, Eve, and use a for each loop to go through the array and print out each name. Add one extra condition: if the name is David, print found David instead of just printing the name. Okay, now, also, if you are not able to do it, then also don't worry. After few days, we will add the link of the solution in the description, which you can have a look at it. But first, I want you guys to try this, because then only you'll be able to, get consistent in the practice of doing Java examples. And I believe you can do it, because it's a pretty basic example. And yeah, now that we have covered both the use cases and limitations, now let's look at some of the advantages of the for each loop. Okay, so advantages of for each loop in Java. So the Java for each loop is a convenient and user friendly way to traverse through arrays and collections. It offers several advantages. First one is reduces errors. So since it handles the iteration internally, it eliminates common mistakes like going out of bounds with an index or skipping elements, which reduces the chances of bugs. Then there is improves readability. The code is much cleaner and easier to understand, especially when you just need to go through each element without worrying about the loop's mechanics. Alright, third one is no index or counter. So you don't have to manage an index or counter manually, making the code simpler and less prone to mistakes related to indexing. So these were the 3 advantages of for each loop in Java. Having looked at the advantages, now let's explore the limitations of the for each loop. So the limitations of for each loop in Java. First one is no reversal traversal. You can't go through elements in reverse order because it doesn't offer control over the iteration direction. Second one is cannot skip elements. Since there are no index, you cannot skip specific elements, meaning you have to process each one in the order. Third one is no access to specific elements. So it doesn't allow you to jump to odd or even elements directly, as you can't reference elements by their position. Now that we have discussed the advantages and limitations, now let's compare the for each loop with the traditional for loop. I hope you guys are waiting for this. So yeah, for loop and for each loop. First, for loop. So the for loop runs a set of code repeatedly until a condition becomes false, giving you the control over how many times the loop runs. Whereas a for each loop runs a set of code for each element in an array list or collection, automatically handling the iteration. Then for loop, it does not depend on collections or objects, meaning you can use it on any kind of repetitive task even without an array or collection. Whereas in for each loop, it works only with arrays or collections and cannot be used outside of that. So the third one of the for loop is it's versatile and can be used in a variety of situations whether or not you are working with objects. Whereas in for each loop, it's specifically designed for use with collections or objects that can be iterated over. Now, let me ask you something. Are you ready to take your tech skills to the next level and open doors to new career opportunities? Then check out our Masters in Computer Science program. It's perfect for anyone aiming to thrive in the development world. In this program, you will explore everything from advanced Java to data structures, algorithms, system design, and much more. Don't wait, click the link in the description and start your journey today. Also, we believe everyone has a unique path to success, and sometimes all you need is a little guidance. So, our expert career advisors are here to help you find the career path. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book your free counseling session and start building the career you have always dreamed of.
Now let me ask you a quick question. Are you ready to take your tech skills to the next level and open doors to new career opportunities? Our Masters in Computer Science program is perfect for anyone aiming to thrive in the development world. In this program, you will explore everything from advanced Java to data structures, algorithm design, full stack development, system design, and much more. Don't wait, click the link in the description and start your journey today. We believe everyone has a unique path to success, and sometimes all you need is a little guidance. So our expert career advisors are here to help you find a perfect path. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book your free counseling session and start building the career you have always dreamed of. So that's a wrap for Java for each loop. We have covered how it simplifies looping through arrays and collections, making your code cleaner and more efficient. Now you are ready to tackle interviews with this in your toolkit. But we are not done yet. Up next, we will dive into multi-dimensional arrays and see how looping through them works. So stay tuned with this video tutorial series. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this.